is it possible to have $200 trillion in credit built on top of Bitcoin? Everyone's focused on the Federal Reserve cuts from yesterday, but they've completely missed this Bitcoin billionaire, what he had to say at the Unconference conference in New York City yesterday. And of course, who am I talking about? The one, the only, Michael Saylor. Let's check out the clip.
This thing is going to be big. There's no reason that credit, digital credit, the credit on gold became bigger than the gold supply. The digital credit may be bigger than the Bitcoin network. If Bitcoin goes to 100 trillion or 200 trillion, there could be 200 trillion of credit on top of it. You know, you may not want to issue it. That's up to you. Someone will want to buy it. You know, and that is the future that the market will determine. And the market is 100 industries, 100 capital markets. And your job as a Bitcoin Treasury company, solve the problem, solve the compliance problem, solve the tax problem, solve the issuance problem, solve the credit problem, do the marketing, do the product design, solve the distribution problem, evangelize the future of digital capital and digital credit, and roll with the punches. Right? Don't get liquidated on volatility. You know, build the most robust structure you can.
So that's not the only thing Michael Saylor said. Michael Saylor just proposed a strategic Bitcoin reserve capable of creating up to $81 trillion in wealth. Read that again. Let's check this out. Number 5, opportunity, establishing the United States as the global digital leader. This is something that Michael Saylor has been saying for many, many months now. The first country to use the fiat money printer to buy Bitcoin is going to win. Think about it. Infinite money printing to buy something that has absolute scarcity, that only goes in one direction. A strategic digital asset policy can strengthen the US dollar, neutralize the national debt, and position America as the global leader in the 21st century digital economy. USD as the global reserve digital currency. Grow digital currency markets from 25 billion to 10 trillion, creating massive demand for U.S. treasuries. Digital capital growth. Expand global digital capital markets from 2 trillion to 280 trillion, with U.S. investors capturing the majority of this wealth. Digital asset leadership. Drive growth in digital assets beyond Bitcoin from 1 trillion to 590 trillion, with the United States dominating the industry. Strategic Bitcoin reserve. Establish a Bitcoin reserve capable of creating 16 to 81 trillion dollars in wealth for the U.S. Treasury, providing a pathway to offset national debt. Conclusion, seizing the digital asset opportunity by establishing a clear taxonomy, a legitimate rights-based framework, and practical compliance obligations. The United States can lead the global digital economy. A capital markets renaissance fueled by digital assets will unlock trillions in wealth, empowering millions of businesses, and solidify the U.S. dollar as the foundation of the 21st century digital financial system. So Michael Saylor coming in hot. We were covering some news of him in Washington, D.C., talking about the so-called Bitcoin Reserve Act that is being pushed forward by the Bitcoin Senator Cynthia Lummis. And then he had a 35-minute keynote yesterday in New York City at the Unconference conference. And we played you guys a clip from part of his keynote there, talking about all the pools of capital that Bitcoin has yet to be tapped into, and how it is just the very beginning of how Bitcoin is going to revolutionize the financial markets. And one of the other things he said, which I found very interesting for any Metaplanet holders watching us right now, he said that Metaplanet was going to be the most valuable company in Japan. That's a big statement from the Chad Saylor, from Michael Saylor himself. So yeah, I mean, lots of stuff to cover, lots of stuff to discuss. And of course, Michael Saylor, coming in hard in the paint. I mean, his incentives, he's incentivized to do so. Right now, Michael Saylor basically has a monopoly. He is the leader of the Bitcoin treasuries with 600,000 Bitcoin and more. I think the closest runner-up is at like 50,000 Bitcoin or so. So no hopes of catching Michael Saylor. And OPTI's going to pull up just the BitcoinTreasuries.net, and just to kind of show you guys the differences between all the companies. And as you guys could see, Michael Saylor, again, can we zoom in a little bit, OPTI? Thank you. Mara coming in second with 52,000 Bitcoin, 21 with 43,000, Bitcoin Standard Treasury Company with 30,000, Bullish with 24,000, and it just keeps going down and down and down. So Michael Saylor's obviously incentivized to talk about this, to preach Satoshi's gospel, and he's saying that it's the first innings of the Bitcoin Treasury companies. Now, all of this is happening simultaneously while the Bitcoin Treasury companies are taking a little bit of a hit, to say it nicely. They have not been performing well, but we have had a nice pump since the Fed rate cuts was announced yesterday. This is something that everybody was predicting. We're at $117,800 US per Bitcoin. OPTI, I'm going to pass it on to you. OPTI's trying to kill a mosquito. So yeah, I mean, OPTI, is Michael Saylor overly bullish? What's your take?
Well, it is interesting because Saylor is usually conservative in a lot of his predictions, right? And for him to be so nonchalant about $100 trillion Bitcoin market cap, I think it's starting to show just how bullish he actually is on these Bitcoin treasury companies. And there was another clip going around of this conference where he was saying he believes there's going to be thousands of Bitcoin treasury companies, just the same as there's thousands of insurance companies, thousands of banks, etc. And I think there's potentially some truth to that. Obviously, I think he is kind of talking his bag here. He's leading the pack in Bitcoin treasury companies, so obviously he's super bullish on it. But the big takeaway, though, is when he starts talking about what these treasury companies are actually doing. And in his words, he was saying that Bitcoin treasury companies are essentially recycling capital. And as we're seeing, as new products come to the market, especially coming from Michael Saylor himself, you're starting to see that he is tailoring a lot of products for different capital markets. And if these things do catch on, then mosquitoes all up in my face. If these different products do tap into these different capital markets, then they are obviously a way to funnel literally trillions of dollars into Bitcoin. As he was explaining it, now, the regulatory clarity is starting to clear up. There's security clarities because now, all of the loopholes that people need to get into Bitcoin are essentially cleared with these strategy products. And so if this does catch on, and maybe this is just the early hype bubble and what we're seeing with Bitcoin treasury companies, I don't think they're going away per se. I think there is actually a market fit for them. Like I've been saying, we're seeing a lot of transformation going on in the markets right now. And a lot of people are looking for alternative investments. And maybe they're not fully convinced that they should just go straight into Bitcoin, but if they're able to get their capital easily into Bitcoin products, then I think we are going to see what Saylor is talking about. Now, $100 trillion market cap, what? That's like a 50x from here in terms of market cap. That would be extremely bullish. Obviously, he didn't give us a timeline here. He just said, I see this happening at some point in the future. So he's not saying, 100 trillion in 4 or 5 years or something like that. But I think what we are seeing that is very interesting is there is that first influx of capital coming into Bitcoin from institutions. Obviously, they take a while to kind of turn around. So I definitely think that $100 trillion market cap is in Bitcoin's future. Of course, course, as everyone's kind of saying, can we just like get to 150, 200K? Maybe just get past the gold market cap here first before we start talking about all these crazy big numbers. But we got to remember Croesus's chart here. There's $1,000 trillion in global capital. And if Bitcoin just takes us, a larger portion of that capital than we have today, it's not that crazy to think that Bitcoin can get to these levels. I know if you're newer to Bitcoin or you're not really a believer in Bitcoin, you're like, these Bitcoin guys are crazy. Like, there's no way that this is going to happen, at least not in our lifetimes. And I would take the opposite. I think we are very much underestimating how hard the capital can flow into Bitcoin. We're underestimating how high Bitcoin can actually go. As the meme always goes, there is no top to Bitcoin because there's no bottom to fiat. They can just print this to infinity. They're just going to continue to print. And if we saw anything coming out of the rate cut meeting yesterday, I don't know if you guys saw, but the markets were pretty volatile during the meeting as the market was digesting that information. They essentially conceded the point that they are going to continue to print. They don't care about inflation. The only thing they're really caring about right now is employment rates. And so what that's telling us is, hey, the money printer is going to come on really strong. They're probably going to get a couple more rate cuts. I will kind of break this down a little bit. Whoa, what's going on with this? This looks weird. They just changed it.
It's a Rumble comment.
Oh, you did that. Okay.
Mind of Elaj.
Okay.
Nico's bedroom walls are just giant murals of Saylor shirtless riding a horse.
This is true. This is true. I can confirm. But all right. So 100 trillion. Again, if that's the given of this conversation, that we'll go to $100 trillion market cap, and that's how we'll get a $200 trillion credit market on top of it. Of course, we gotta assume that 100 trillion is obviously in play. Now, when he's talking about the $200 trillion credit market on top of Bitcoin, it's essentially saying like a $300 trillion combined market of spot Bitcoin plus credit products on top of Bitcoin. And while I was watching the clip, even though it's extremely bullish because he's talking about $100 trillion market cap, the $200 trillion market cap does concern me a little more. Essentially, from that clip, it does sound like he's saying paper Bitcoin summer is never going to end, and it's going to get way bigger than it is now, which probably brings pros and cons to it. One, of course, making credit or debt obligations in Bitcoin in the future, or rather maybe in the current time in the next 5 to 10 years, it does seem like a risky bet, considering if Bitcoin does rip as much as we think it will, it'd be extremely hard to pay back those debt obligations. I'm guessing at 100 trillion, though, he's assuming that the Bitcoin price will gradually increase and it won't have parabolic runs. By 100 trillion, I guess we won't really care. I think that's like a $4.76 million Bitcoin. And by then it would be a large portion of people adopting Bitcoin. So maybe that's not the biggest concern here. I do think he is right, though, as we're seeing with strategy and as we're seeing with these Bitcoin treasury companies, there is some kind of appetite for debt obligations in Bitcoin. And obviously, if we're going to be building the next financial system here with Bitcoin, if Bitcoin is the next monetary order or the next, fundamental piping of the future economy, then I do believe there's still going to be debt. People will still want credit. And if we are seeing what is happening clearly, then it does look like Wall Street institutions, etc., they will want credit and debt products. And so I think, as we've seen with Saylor, he has been very forward thinking and at sometimes genius level, and he's taken a lot of flack for it. So I think he might be projecting the end game of where we are actually going. I know it's not exactly what everyone wants to see. We all want to, or at least for a long time, Bitcoiners wanted to believe like everyone's just going to be using Bitcoin peer-to-peer. There won't be any debt in the system. But that's just not how business works. In the real world, businesses do take out debt. And I do think in the future that businesses will take out that debt in Bitcoin. Maybe in the short term, it's going to be extremely hard to pay back that debt in Bitcoin terms. But I think in the future, when things are stabilized a little more, I don't think that these predictions are as crazy as they sound. Obviously, I'm as bullish as anyone else, and I think $100 trillion market cap in Bitcoin is going to happen, whether that's in my lifetime or like, future lifetimes. I don't know. But I do think it's a very real possibility of it's happening. So I don't think he's that crazy to say all this. He's obviously super bullish on Bitcoin treasury companies. He's pretty much staked his reputation on Bitcoin treasury companies working, but it does seem to be playing out as he's predicted in the past a few times. So, hey, $200 trillion credit market on top of Bitcoin, $100 trillion market cap. I kind of like it. I'm kind of okay with it, even though it does sound like more paper Bitcoin in the system. It is what it is. I think that's just kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. But I will say, I did watch, that entire thing. By the way, shout out to the Unconference guys, Tim Kotzman, his executive producer. They put together a fantastic event. Saw a lot of predominant Bitcoiners in the crowd, and I got to give them credit where credit is due. I saw that entire 35-minute presentation. It was fabulous. It was fantastic. And again, it was kind of going into Bitcoin from a different angle, from the financial markets angle. And from the financial markets angle, I wasn't really going it through how we cover it here on Simply Bitcoin, which is, stay humble, stack sats, stay solvent, put that Bitcoin into self-custody. That's really our angle. But again, this is good for number go up. And I think I'm just going to pull up this very famous chart that has made the rounds by Jesse Myers. And it's basically talking about Bitcoin's total addressable market. $900 trillion of it. Jack Mallers famously talks about how he believes that Bitcoin is a $500 trillion asset. So if you just divide 2 trillion by 500, right? We still got a long ways to go. That's about a 250x. So 250x is pretty gnarly, is it not? But it kind of breaks.
I'll take that.
It kind of breaks down the the different asset classes in the world today. And what Saylor is doing is really intelligent. As actually Mark Moss, you saw that episode that I did with Mark Moss.
Yeah, it was great.
And Mark Moss was essentially making the case that most of the world's capital is unaccessible. I think he was making the case that like 90% of the world's capital is not accessible to Bitcoin. People can't just get access to Bitcoin. So what Saylor is doing is genius, because essentially he's building specific products, and apparently he's using the demons, as OPTI calls them, AIs, to build different financial products.
Elon's words, not mine, Nico.
Different financial products to tap into different pools of capital. And it's extremely intelligent, because essentially these pools of capital would normally not have access to Bitcoin. So he's going after the fixed income investors. So the fixed income investors are usually people that buy bonds. He's creating a superior product, offering them stable 10% yearly yield. But in reality, he's getting the upside of that, right? So he's providing that stability, so to speak. So he's creating different financial products for all these different pools of capital, whether it's bonds, obviously money, equities, and I think obviously Bitcoin is just going to overtake gold. If Bitcoin reaches the market cap of gold, which is currently at 22 trillion, I believe, gold's been crushing it. So I believe that's about $1 million per coin, right? So this is what Saylor's doing. He was proven right. He paid his price of tuition. I never forget, at Pacific Bitcoin in Los Angeles, at the bottom of the bear market, and year of 2022, Saylor was sitting in the front row. And he was, I could tell he was visibly frustrated a little bit. His company was down billions of dollars. And we've all been there. That's the thing. We've all been there. We've all paid our price of tuition when it comes to Bitcoin. And Saylor was vindicated and his company performed because of that. But I think Saylor's role in all of this is bringing Bitcoin to Wall Street. I think that's Saylor's role here. That's the role that he's picked up. That's the role that he's playing. And I think he's doing it extremely successfully. And one of the things that he said last year yesterday, that really caught my attention, he says this is year one of Bitcoin becoming a financial financial asset or entering Wall Street. This is year one of Bitcoin doing that. So I think that was a behemoth statement. I think that was a very big statement for Michael Saylor to say that. And I agree with him. I think also I saw Adam Back talk about this as well. He believes that I believe it was Adam Back. I could be wrong there, but basically the TLDR is that every company is going to become a Bitcoin treasury company at one point. And I think you won't have a choice. I think that's the thing that people misunderstand, because if you take a look at how much cash or cash equivalents the companies like Apple, companies like Google, like the big seven tech stocks other than Tesla, if you look at them, they're holding large amounts of cash. And, with the purchasing power of cash continuing to decrease on a yearly basis, imagine if they just put 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% of that cash into Bitcoin. Not only will it make up for the loss in purchasing power due to inflation, but it will actually increase the purchasing power of that extra cash that they have, that they parked it in Bitcoin. And that's the case that Michael Saylor is trying to make. Now, these companies don't have the necessity because of how profitable they are. They're making so much profitable. Their stocks are performing so well. They don't really have an incentive to do that. But imagine if they did. Imagine how much more profitable they would be. Imagine how much better their stock would perform. This was the case that Michael Saylor was making towards Microsoft, where he made that 3-minute presentation for Microsoft, basically trying to convince the Microsoft executives to buy Bitcoin. This is the case that he was saying. It's like, look, like the cash that you have on hand, you're sitting on melting ice cubes. If you don't get on the Bitcoin train, you're going to get left behind. But again, that creates opportunities for other companies that are willing to pioneer, are willing to take on that risk, and they're going to get all the benefits. So the next thing that I'll say is, I think that there's going to be more and more treasury companies. I think right now the treasury companies that are at a discount, the last time I checked, the MNAV of MicroStrategy was at 1.44. So, I think that as soon as Bitcoin starts to rip to the upside, like a real rip, not this like fake BS rips that we've been having, where it goes up from 114 to 117, then it goes back down to 114. None of these like stable coin Bitcoin rips. I'm talking about a real rip from like 117 where we are now to like 140, 150. I think a lot of these treasury companies are going to start to perform very well. OPTI's crossing his fingers because we've been here. We have kind of PTSD at this moment. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to OPTI. OPTI, I want to get your thoughts on this. Also do want to give a shout out to the audience, 483 people watching live on YouTube, 1,000 or so watching live on X. And of course, shout out to the Rebel audience, always coming in hot. 100 live viewers on X. If you guys are enjoying Simply Bitcoin Live, the most watched Bitcoin only live show on planet Earth, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps with the algos. Where are we at on YouTube right now? We're at 93 likes. Help us break 150 likes by the time we get to the 30-minute mark. I know we could do it. If you guys are enjoying the show, smash that like button. I see a comment. I do want to pull it up. Let's check it. Let's check it out. Here it is. It is by Verbal. He says, Nico, the problem is that these treasury companies aren't profitable and underwater. It's risky to buy a stock if Bitcoin is the only thing they're banking on, bro. I agree. That's why we literally talk about buying spot Bitcoin and put it into self-custody. That's literally what we talk about every single day. But if you are willing, if you do have a risk appetite, Some people are looking at these treasury companies as a way to grow their Bitcoin positions. That's what a lot of these Bitcoin OGs, that's what they're trying to do. But again, it does come with risk, right? And obviously, if you're willing to take on that risk, you can be rewarded or you can wreck yourself. But you guys know what we like to do here at Simply Bitcoin, which is stay humble, stack sats, put that Bitcoin into self-custody, and then ride into the sunset with OPTI next to you, with his shirt a little bit unbuttoned, driving down, driving down South Beach, Washington Avenue. That's
Nico talking about his fantasies here. That's crazy.
That's the name of the game. That's the name of the game. That's the name.
No, Nico, I do want to hit on. Dude, who let this guy around the soundboard? I think what Verbal is saying is definitely one of the key factors going on. Even Saylor himself said that his company was a zombie company until they found Bitcoin. He was, trying everything to essentially continue progressing his company and growing his company. And until he found Bitcoin, he wasn't able to do that. And you're right, Verbal. Like, what we are seeing is a lot of companies that would consider themselves zombie companies. And we've seen what they've done to, quote, zombie companies right now. And yeah, that's why we are always recommending spot Bitcoin, because the risk from our perspective is just like, it's not there. The ROI on this is just not, like, the risk is there and the ROI is just, it doesn't really make sense to us. And as we always try to tell people, it's like, if you don't understand what you're investing in, then you probably shouldn't be investing in it. And in hindsight, if we all knew what strategy was going to do in 2020, I'm sure we all would have at least bought a little bit of a position. But we had no clue. And I think what is going to be the differentiating factor as we move forward is seeing companies that are currently profitable going into Bitcoin. And when you talk about Bitcoin treasury companies, I think there needs to be a distinction between what we're actually talking about. Because when we say Bitcoin treasury companies, we're all kind of thinking in the frame of what strategy is done, the strategy playbook, where it's like, you take out debt and you just buy Bitcoin, and that's basically your whole business model. But every company has a quote unquote treasury. It's just, what are they denominating their profits in? Is it in fiat? Is it buying more treasuries from, government debt? Yeah. That's fake news. Chef Tommy's fake news. But what we are going to see, and I think when a lot of people talk about Bitcoin treasury companies, when they're saying there's going to be thousands of them, yes, Saylor particularly said there'll be thousands Bitcoin treasury companies, like there are 1,000 insurance companies or 1,000 credit unions, etc. And I do think he does have a point, but there's going to be millions of treasury companies, in the sense that every company, if they want to stay profitable, if they want to stay competitive, will have to have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And that's a little different than saying, oh, we're just going to take out a lot of debt and buy Bitcoin. The different conversation here is a treasury company stacking profits into Bitcoin so that they can maintain their runway. And I think that is, I know infinite is like, you can't really say that because there is a certain number of companies in the world, but it's basically going to be every company that's going to have to hold Bitcoin. And so the treasury company ecosystem, just by differentiation of what you consider a treasury company, I think it's going to expand. Will there be as many strategies? I think Saylor's saying there will be thousands of those, and I kind of agree. I think there will be, and we've been talking about that a lot on the show. I think there's going to be multiple copycats, and some of them will figure it out. But I think every company will have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and you could also consider that a corporate treasury Bitcoin play. So I think there's stuff lost in the nuance when you talk about this, because of course there's short sound bites. You got to get the memetics. You want to get the most engaging, shock and awe kind of clip. And so, as we've seen with Saylor, he's been killing it. It's hard to look at what he's done and not be like, yeah, this was a great move for his company. But I do agree. Once we see the most profitable, like once we see the Mag 7, just stacking Bitcoin with profits, then things are going to completely change. I mean, I meant all of the Mag 7.
We have one. We have. I know as much as
Is
I know.
Tesla Mag 7?
Yeah, of course. I know that OPTI does not like Elon and AI, but I do. I'm a big fan of Elon, self-driving cars and rockets. And he owns Bitcoin. And he bought X, which was pretty cool. So I mean, I know you don't like Elon, OPTI, but
It's not that I don't like him. I'm just suspect.
his Tesla does hold a lot of Bitcoin.
It does.
And
They're on here. I think they were number 11.
It's number 11, dude.
Yeah, they're 11.
So you know what the thing with Elon that like kind of he got tapped on the shoulder, bro. Remember how Tesla used to accept Bitcoin? Remember that? They used to Tesla,
and he said until the data comes out that Bitcoin is 51% green, we're not going to take payments again, and then it happened.
Which it is, and then we never heard from him again as it relates to Bitcoin. He just stayed quiet. So like something happened. He must have gotten tapped on the shoulder. But again, like don't pay attention to what they say, or they don't say. Better said, pay attention to what they do. Someone in the chat, OPTI thinks Elon is an alien. That's hilarious. Dude, our chat is undefeated, bro.
I might, guys. Wouldn't be the craziest thing said on the show.
Senor Papi says OPTI is sus.
Hey, get out of here.
Ryan says cured blindness. Come on. Someone says Tesla accepts Bitcoin again.
They do.
Do they?
I don't know.
I'm going to Tesla.com right now.
Yeah, Nico's gonna buy me a Tesla with his Bitcoin.
Not anymore. Not anymore. OPTI, you know, he said he missed me when
and now I don't.
He said he missed me while I was
Here, let's
gone.
pull this up. Let's shop for my Tesla right now and see if we can pay it in Bitcoin.
I don't see an option, dude. I don't see an option. I do not see an option. I do not see an option.
Go to order now. Wait, do you pay for it first? And do you order and then pay for it? How does this work?
I think you have to build it first. White interior.
Yeah, let's get that white interior with the black rims.
Okay, where is order? It just says order with card. I don't see no
Rip.
Bitcoin here. That was misinformation. You
Fake
cannot
news.
You cannot buy here. Wait, let me see. No, it only says card. It only said this is fake news.
Congregate with the demon.
Tesla only accepts Dogecoin.
Yeah, this is literally on Tesla support. That's crazy.
That was fake news. That was fake news.
Here we go. From their website. Tesla only accepts Doge. Okay, how many Dogecoin do you need to buy a Tesla? Yo, that's crazy.
Well, this is fake news. Anyways, so Tesla. So again, he never brought it back. He never brought it back.
That's funny, man.
And he got tapped on the shoulder. He must have been tapped on the shoulder, bro. There's no other explanation for this. You have another explanation for this?
He's just not as smart as everyone thinks he is.
Dude builds rockets, bro. Anyways,
he bought a company that builds rockets, right?
Anyways, guys, we're happy to have you on the stream. Happy to be back on the stream. Been traveling for like these last couple weeks. It's been crazy. I was in Rio on Sunday. Before that, I was in Paraguay. I was in Italy. I was in Spain. Then Latvia. Then Helsinki in Finland. It's been crazy traveling to all these conferences. I'm happy to be back in the hot seat with my co-host who hates me. But you know,
I just like to troll you.
But it's good to be here. And it's gonna be a fantastic show. Anyway,
oh my God, who are these idiots?
Welcome to Bitcoin. Anyways, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Really, really helps with the algos and pushing this message forward. We're at 523 live viewers on YouTube, 129 likes. Smash that like button. Help us break. Elaine says, I need to straighten Nico out about Elon. Ooh, Elaine agrees with you, apparently. Elaine agrees with you, dude. Loco, okay, we started an Elon.
Okay, let's keep it moving. Enough of Elon.
Loco says he funds people who build rockets. He like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. They have the vision and the funding. Anyways.
Hey, Steve Jobs was the GOAT, though.
Steve Jobs was the GOAT. Steve Jobs was the GOAT. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. We have tons to cover. Michael Saylor yesterday, he chimed in on the core versus knots debate. So we're going to cover that. Very, very spicy. And then also during the news segment, we have some regulatory updates. The European Union continues to go down the CBDC route. For some reason, in the United States, again, they're trying to squeeze into regulation, banning CBDCs outright. So we're going to cover all of that. It's going to be a great show. And then, Opti, what do you have for the culture segment?
I'm going to kind of take a victory lap. I think my macro analysis was pretty good. Maybe I got a little bearish for a second, but I kind of hit the nail on the head, Nico. Maybe I am the macro expert here.
I told you were the in-house macro expert, and you said no.
No, I'm not a macro expert. I'm just learning. I'm an amateur.
Anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. Smash the like button. We still have tons to cover today on Simply Bitcoin Live. We're at 142 likes. We're 8 likes away from 150 already. So smash that like button. Shout out to the live stream. We love you guys all. And we're going to move on to the next segment. Before we do that, guys, you guys know the deal. Simply Bitcoin is powered by our amazing partners, and we're very picky on who we choose to partner with. I want to tell you guys about our lead sponsor, bitcoinwell.com. The reason it's so fantastic, it's so fabulous, is because it's the only on-ramp in the United States that helps you enable your independence by automatic self-custody. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. To get started, scan the QR code on your screen right now or check the link in the video/podcast description. If you're a higher net worth individual and you want a white glove service built so that you can buy Bitcoin directly to self-custody for family offices, high net worth individuals, trusts, and organizations, you have to check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC and tell them Simply Bitcoin sent you, and they'll take very, very good care of you. All right, everybody, let's start the show. We have tons to talk about. We're going to be right back in just a second. I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, we are back. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $117,740. Before I continue, guys, Get yourself a stamp seed kit. Don't store your seed words on paper. Stamp them into titanium. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to stampseed.com, where you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Remember, guys, don't write down your seed words on paper. Stamp it into titanium. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $117,740. Sats per dollar, 849 sats per dollar. Block height, 915,281. Realized monetary inflation, 0.84%. Market cap, 2.35 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 9.08%. Percentage issued, 94.87% of the Bitcoin supply has been issued. So we're not even at 100% yet. Anyways, I don't think this is the right one. But I did download the right one.
It is. It's just Kaiser's tweeting it.
Kaiser has some thoughts. But anyways, Michael Saylor chimed in on the core versus knots debates, and he picked a side. Let's check it out.
And so I think protocol proposals, however well-intentioned, can go horribly wrong. And I think that the late debate, that this debate we see right now over op return limits, this is actually a second order or maybe even a third order change. It's not changing, it's not changing the amount of Bitcoin, which of course is an atomic zero order change. It's not changing the block size, which is a first order change. It's somewhere in the second and a half to third order, but the reaction of the community, which is, to reject it, an inflammatory reaction, I thought was a healthy response. It's healthy to be skeptical of a third order change to the protocol, right? Because it might become a second order change, and and if it's a first order change, it puts everything at risk. And the biggest danger is a very talented, well-funded, well-intentioned developer trying to do something good. That's the danger, right? And that is fundamentally the issue, which is a very competent, well-funded, well-intentioned developer that wants to upgrade the protocol. That is the risk. The risk is, I've said this tongue-in-cheek before in my long business career, I don't regret my bad ideas because no one's stupid enough to pursue their bad ideas. I regret all of the good ideas that I pursued to the detriment of my great idea. Like, it's the good ideas that actually dilute the product, dilute the brand, dilute the network, and destroy the company. The good ideas will destroy the company. The good idea for Bitcoin will destroy Bitcoin. If I want to destroy Bitcoin, I would just fund infinite developers who are very talented and tell them to make it better.
I mean, that's a very clear stance. Obviously,
Is it though?
Yes, of course. He's for ossification. That's what that means, bro.
Okay.
He's clearly in the ossification camp, which, by the way, I'm on the ossification camp too. I think Bitcoin should just be money. So I'm kind of on the.
So no more core updates.
I think no. Okay, so let's talk about this. This is a very good discussion, and I think a lot of people actually have requested this in the chat. And please let us know in the chat what you guys think.
Yeah, is he knots or core or ossification?
Actually, we should launch a poll. Let's see. Start a poll. Knots or core?
Because I saw a lot of people saying that he was like pro knots here.
That's what he said.
But I know, but if you listen to what he says, you could also say that he's kind of saying a dig at Luke.
Okay, look, I'm not going to get into any of that. But what I'm going to say is look, here, okay. So I'll give you guys an example. Do you guys remember the ordinals? The whole ordinal thing? That happened, from my understanding, that happened because of the Taproot implementation.
Taproot upgrade, yeah.
The Taproot upgrade allowed ordinals to happen. So everyone and their mother was on board with Taproot. Everyone wanted Taproot. What he's talking about and what I'm talking about is that there are unintended consequences to updating Bitcoin. And we have to be very careful with those unintended consequences. And people don't people misunderestimate listen, Bitcoin right now is perfect money, right? You have to be very careful when you change it because there are unintended consequences of changing Bitcoin that you might not foresee when you change Bitcoin. And that's exactly what happened with Taproot, which led to ordinals. And the whole community was caught off guard with the whole ordinals thing. Everyone was freaking out. They disliked it. They were like, what is this stuff? This is what happens when you change Bitcoin. And I'm kind of on the ossification camp because, like, it already serves its purpose. When you start kind of like, Bitcoin is supposed to be money. It's not supposed to be anything else. It does the money thing really, really well. If you start kind of changing things a little bit, it could have unintended consequences that might break Bitcoin or might make Bitcoin worse than what it is today, right? So, with the core the new version of Bitcoin, Core 30 or whatever, again, I'm not technical enough to argue, for it or against it, but I do have common sense. And my common sense and my intuition is telling me a very kind of simple thing. Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin's a savings account. Like, Bitcoin is savings. That's what Bitcoin should be for. Like, Bitcoin, I don't think should be used for anything else, in my opinion. I think the only time where Bitcoin has to essentially be upgraded, there has to be some type of fork, is to make it quantum resistant. But we're not even close to that. Like, that's many, many years away. That's the only time where I'm like, okay, this is a clear and present danger to Bitcoin, to Bitcoin's algorithm. And okay, we gotta do something about it. And even Satoshi mentioned it, by the way. So that's the only occasion where I'm kind of on the camp of like, okay, like, there needs to be some type of improvement to Bitcoin. But other than that, like, I'm still running a very old version on my node. I have no intention of updating it. Why should I update it? It serves my purposes. It serves my needs, which is I'm using Bitcoin as savings. I'm using Bitcoin as money, basically. That's my opinion. And I think we should be very, very careful with changing Bitcoin because there are unintended consequences to doing that. And I think the Taproot and the ordinals is a very good example of that. No one had any idea that the ordinals things was going to happen. But as soon as Taproot came in, boom, it started happening. And then everyone started freaking out. And then he was talking about, Saylor was talking about how, there's kind of layers to it. There's like level 3, there's level 2 changes, and there's level 1 changes. Level 1 change would imply something like changing the total supply. But what the argument he was making is that it's a very slippery slope, right? Like, if you start changing stuff like that are not so, it's not such a big deal, that could lead to changing something that is a bigger deal. And then that could lead to something that could change something that is a very, very big deal. I think we should hold the line and just not change Bitcoin. Bitcoin works as is. And that's my opinion. Opti, what is your opinion on this? Because this is getting so heated on X. People are, going back and forth, attacking each other. I'm not going to name any names. I'm taking a side, obviously, which is Bitcoin should only be used as money. I think Saylor feels the same way. What camp are you on? Are you on the ossification camp? Are you on the Bitcoin should do many more things?
No, I'm definitely not on Bitcoin should do all the things side. That's what Ethereum's for. Go have fun with that dookie piece of software over there. That's what that stuff's for. That's what shitcoins are for. I'm definitely on the side of Bitcoin as money, but ossification right now, to me, I think there can be improvements to Bitcoin on like scaling and stuff like that.
But that's layer 2.
I get that, but still, isn't that kind of what the recent proposals was, like what we saw with Taproot? That was for, you know, scaling. And
yeah, but look at what the unintended consequences
I mean,
were.
I agree. I think the unintended consequences are something that should be very researched. Like what we're seeing is everyone, I think when Taproot was upgraded, we all didn't see the, you know, we're all blindsided. We didn't know what we didn't know. And now in hindsight, I think what should happen, or rather what is probably happening, is the debates that we're seeing right now are because of what we went through with the Taproot upgrade. And so we're seeing people are projecting what might happen. Other people saying, no, this is the reasons for this. And so like, I don't know. I'm a little hesitant on saying ossification, but because I want to leave the you know, the door open for that there potentially could be some upgrades that are beneficial for everyone. And I'm not sure is if we don't change anything ever again, will that be as beneficial to Bitcoin as we think it will be? So like even in my thinking, I'm thinking, you know, adversarial here. But I personally, I'm just on the, I'm not upgrading for a while because, you know, I don't really know. And so my choice is I'm going to just kind of sit on my hands. But I personally don't think that some of the rhetoric about this is, you know, the end of Bitcoin is really warranted. I think Bitcoin will survive all of this. Like, yes, there's a kind of civil war going on. So I'm not as histrionic about it. I don't think it's over for Bitcoin. And if it is over for Bitcoin, then it was never going to succeed in the first place, basically. So I don't know if I'm really in the ossification camp, but I'm also not in let's do all the things camp. I'm just a, you know, moderate here. I'm just like, maybe there's ways to make this better. Maybe the best move is not to do anything. And yeah, that's kind of where I stand. I'm just not upgrading my node. I don't know.
I agree. I agree. I agree with OPTI. Maybe it is a bit controversial, but this is where we stand here at Simply Bitcoin. I do want to cover what the poll is saying. 84%. Could we pull up the amount of node who's running what? I think it's on Clark. I think it's on Clark Moody.
I think Knots is
let me see.
ahead right now. I'm looking for you guys. I'm looking. Here we go. All right, here we go. Let me pull this up for you. Wait, where'd it go? I just had it. Where'd it go? Oh, here we go.
So yeah, Knots is number 3.
Well, I think what everyone's saying, if you combine the two versions of Knots, then it's basically at 20%. But then with that same math, if you combine all the core nodes, it's like 80% core. So
yeah. So anyways, let's see what the chat thinks. The chat right now is at 83% knots and 17% core. So yeah, I mean that's where it's at. I'm gonna end that poll right there. Anyways,
no, I am not a programmer, guys. Just to clear up any confusion. I am not a coder.
We are content creators. Anyways, guys, we're going to be right back in just a bit. We're going to hit the news segment. We have a lot of update for you guys, so you're going to want to stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
All right, everybody. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And we have an update for you guys. You guys know the deal we talk a lot about on Simply Bitcoin, the two alternatives of the future of money, right? And of course, you have Bitcoin and you have central bank digital currencies. This is one of OPTI's ex-girlfriends, Ursula von der Leyen. Was this before or after, Chrissy?
After.
Okay, and that's a joke, by the way. It's a bad dad joke. But anyways, this is the headline for this X post. Unelected EU head Ursula von der Leyen, in order to protect European jobs, we must roll out the digital euro, the EU's new CBDC. It's not an accident that digital ID and CBDCs are being pushed in lockstep across the entire Western world at exactly the same time. That's how you know it originates at the supranational level from the unelected globalist technocrats who pull the strings of your so-called democratically elected leaders. Now, I'm going to chime in on this, and I will say, let me see if I could play the clip and see what she actually says.
We have held strategic dialogues with key industries: cars, chemicals, steel, pharmaceuticals, defense, agriculture. In each sector, the message is the same. To protect jobs, we need to make business in Europe easier. A digital euro, for example, will make it easier for companies and consumers alike. We have...
What? That's crazy, dude. Like, to protect jobs, we must launch a CBDC. Like, dude, yo, that's wild. How about this? To protect yourself from inflation, we must adopt Bitcoin. To protect yourself from inflation, Bitcoin should be the standard currency of the world to protect yourself from inflation. How about that? Yeah, that's crazy, dude. That's some crazy rhetoric. They're really doubling down on this. I mean, it makes sense. I got to pull up. I haven't read it in a while, Opti. I have not read this in a while. I got to read the sovereign individual passage because, it just kind of reminds me of just this rhetoric and what's happening here. So you guys know that I absolutely love this book. I saw some people like in the comments saying, Nico, I read the book for the first time. It's fantastic. If you're a Bitcoiner, you have to read this book. It's a really good book. Anyways, so I'm going to read some of this. In the new millennium, cyber money controlled by private markets will supersede fiat money issued by governments. It goes on to say, lacking their accustomed scope to tax and inflate, governments, even in traditionally civil countries, will turn nasty. It goes on to say, businesses that offer services that facilitate the realization of autonomy by individuals will be subject to infiltration, sabotage, and disruption. Think about Operation Choke Point 2.0, ladies and gentlemen. Arbitrary forfeiture of property, already commonplace in the United States, where it occurs 5,000 times a week, will become even more pervasive. Governments will violate human rights and censor the free flow of information. Sounds familiar, does it not? Sabotage useful technologies. Sounds familiar. And worse. Mind you, this book was written in the 90s. Prophetic. What a prophetic book. But no. And I love this part right here. They compare the state to a farmer keeping cows in a field to be milked, but that soon the cows will have wings. They predict that for the government to collect taxes from its citizens in this type of society, it will have to violate human rights. And when we talk about taxes, we're not talking about income tax. We're talking about inflation tax. And this is why they want to roll out central bank digital currencies, because they want to retain their ability, their godlike power of being able to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. Now, on the other side of the pond, it's not the same story. On the other side of the pond, the GOP, the Republican Party here in the United States, is going in the exact opposite direction. Here is a quote from the article. House GOP moves to combine central bank digital currency ban with crypto bill. House Republicans are gearing up to retroactively combine GOP legislation that would ban the Federal Reserve from creating a central bank digital currency with a sweeping bipartisan cryptocurrency market structure bill after both bills passed the chamber separately in July. The House is set to vote Tuesday afternoon on a procedural measure that includes a little notice provision that would combine the CBDC ban bill with the Clarity Act, which would overhaul how crypto tokens are regulated. The CBDC measure, led by House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, passed the lower chamber largely along party lines in July, while the sweeping market structure bill drew support from 78 Democrats. At the time the two measures passed the House, Republicans on the Financial Services and Agricultural Committees objected to combining them on the floor. A push from GOP hardliners to merge the two bills created a protracted standoff on the floor. The committee leaders didn't want to jeopardize bipartisan support for the Clarity Act in hopes of sending a message about its viability in the Senate. To appease the hardliners, GOP leaders vowed to include a CBDC ban in Congress, in the Congress annual must-pass defense policy bill. Though language banning a CBDC was included in the House-passed National Defense Authorization Act, few Democrats support the provision, meaning it is likely to get stripped out of the bill by the Senate. Bipartisan support is needed to pass the NDAA in the upper chamber. Anyways, it continues to say, by combining both measures and sending them to the Senate, the House continues to advance both priorities. And again, this is referring to the Clarity Act and the Anti-CBDC Act. Now, you guys know the deal. We are heading into the midterms in November of 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, vote for pro-Bitcoin, anti-CBDC candidates. There are no in-betweens. Do you want a future of central bank digital currencies, or do you want a future of freedom, peace, opportunity, prosperity, and freedom, which is a future of Bitcoin? So quite a little bit of an update there in regards to the CBDCs. You could see how the United States of America, specifically one party at least, is taking a hard stance on central bank digital currencies. And you could see on the other side of the pond, the European Union, led by the unelected Ursula von der Leyen, is talking about how we must have a central bank digital currency to protect jobs. Dude, that is the craziest. I don't want to curse. That is the craziest shiitake I've ever seen, bro. That is wild that she's making those claims, dude. Like, give us more power. That's how we're going to protect jobs. Give us more power. Give us the ability to inflate even more. Give us the ability to control your money. And that's the only way we're going to be able to save jobs. And what's crazy too, is she was doing that to a clapping audience. They were losing their minds. They were like, oh my God, she's so right. She's so true. We have to do this for the protection of the European Union and the jobs there. And look, they play like these nice little like videos in the back, of like middle class, like workers, like blue collar workers, like, walking upstairs and stuff, like trying to remind you, like, if you want to save their jobs, B-roll footage too. If you want to save their jobs, we must have a central bank digital currency. I'm not falling for that propaganda. A central bank digital currency is dystopian. It's going to give the government more power over your life. You're going to have less freedom. And not only that, a central bank digital currency does not solve inflation. Money can exist without inflation. This is what I want you guys to understand. Money can exist without inflation. This is what Bitcoin proves. You want to live the American dream? You got to adopt Bitcoin. If you've adopted Bitcoin, you could live the American dream. You could afford the house you want. You could afford the apartment that you want. You could afford it. But you got to use the right unit of account. You got to reuse real money. That protects your purchasing power. A central bank digital currency won't protect your purchasing power. It will not only not protect the purchasing power, it will literally, like, you guys remember the Canadian truckers protests? How they just froze everyone's accounts? They at least had to ask banks to do that. With the CBDC, they don't even have to ask a bank. There will be a bureaucrat that will have the ability to freeze your money. Remember all the talk about the 15-minute cities and the social credit system? Remember, they're talking about digital IDs. What the F does a digital ID have to do with saving jobs? OPTI, I'm asking you.
I don't know, bro.
I have no idea. I don't know how the two are related. So anyways, do you want to go the side of freedom, which is Bitcoin, or do you want to go down the side of collectivism and control? Because that's what a CBDC is. And this rhetoric of, oh my God, if we don't have a CBDC, you're going to lose all your jobs. And they're all clapping and they're playing B-roll. We work in media, ladies and gentlemen. They're playing stock footage of these workers. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it. Anyways, my rant is over. OPTI, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I find it hilarious, but it's really more insidious that her main tactics here, obviously one, like Nico's saying, fear tactics here, but the one that will probably get a lot of people sleepwalking into their own jail is this idea of convenience. If you heard it, they've been talking about this for a while. When they mention CBDCs, they never talk about inflation at all. They always say one thing. Essentially, oh, we need to upgrade payments. Like, we need to, make this easier for you guys to use money, and this is going to make your life easier and your jobs better. They're literally trying to lull the European Union into, can I say it? into their own cage here using convenience. And as we know, a lot of people will fall for the trap of convenience. And as her own statement said right there, is like, hey, you want your life to be easier, basically do what we say and you'll have jobs. I don't know. It sounds kind of threatening. And I do remember a last kind of test in humanity around convenience. And that didn't end so well. Personally, it was great for me, but convenience is the slow killer, like metaphorically, of course. Convenience is where you walk yourself into your own cage. If you do go for the easy route here, you're just trying to save your job. And it is absolutely insidious how they're doing it. They're basically saying, hey, if you want to keep your job, you basically have to adapt a digital ID and a CBDC. And it's absolutely nuts. Like, the fact that those clapping seals in the audience all allegedly think this is a good idea, they just turn their brains off. There's just no critical thinking here. They're really desperate, and they have no clue what they are doing. Forgive them. They don't know. What are you doing here?
I'm looking at the ones that don't clap because I don't know if they'll get points taken off. Like, this guy isn't buying it. Look at this guy. I want to know this guy. We got to interview this guy. This guy's a Chad.
Who
is this guy? He's not buying it.
103, 103,
103, bro. 103, ladies and gentlemen. 103 knows the deal. Anyways, guys, this is gonna be a fantastic show. OPTI's got
we're just gonna go over kind of the macro landscape
during OPTI's a macro expert. Anyways,
I am gonna clap myself on the back a little bit.
Before we get to it, I do want to give a shout out, guys, to Mining Disrupt 2025. This is gonna be the largest mining conference of the year. They have one in Fort Lauderdale. Now they're bringing it back to Texas, or they're the first time in Texas, actually. But hashtag OPTI is going back to Texas, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news, massive news, ultra mega news. Dallas and OPTI are once again combining. So this is happening November 11th through the 13th. You're not going to want to miss it. OPTI's a different person when he's in Dallas. So you're not going to want to miss OPTI in Dallas.
Yeah, wear cowboy boots.
OPTI wearing cowboy boots. So you guys are not going to want to miss the biggest mining conference in the world, Mining Disrupt 2025 in Dallas, Texas, November 11th through the 13th of 2025. If you scan the QR code or check the link in the video/podcast description, it will give you a discount to the conference. Guys, you're not going to want to miss this. I hope to see you guys in Dallas, Texas, November 11th through the 13th for Mining Disrupt, the largest Bitcoin mining conference in the world. If you guys want to get a job in the industry, if you're interested in the mining industry, go to Mining Disrupt 2025 in Dallas, Texas, November 11th through the 13th. All right, everybody, we're going to be right back in just a bit. We're going to hit the culture segment. We'll see you guys in a second.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys, tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
Okay, guys. Nico's loving his new iOS update. He's over here.
So are you.
I am.
You
It's
brought
great.
it up to
It's
me
great.
first.
It's great.
Glass.
It is nice. Though it's not working for some of my apps, so it's not fully glass.
iOS glass.
It's nice. I like it.
Say it off.
iOS glass. iOS glass. Okay. Anyways, stop. Get him away from this. Okay, so yesterday the highly awaited rate cuts finally happened, and we covered this a little bit. Well, actually, we've been covering it a lot, and we kind of broke the news at the end of the show yesterday. And I don't know if you guys saw, but basically right when the show ended, as I was saying, we saw a lot of volatility in the markets as the markets try to digest what this cut means. A lot of people were disappointed. You know, they're like 25 basis points. I thought we were going 50, maybe 100. And it seems like the markets, at least when the announcement was made, there was a lot of volatility in the market. I don't know if you guys saw the Bitcoin price, but it was just spiking. It was going crazy. And we saw kind of some corrections in the S&P 500. We saw the bond yields kind of drop a little bit. And then basically today we've seen them all recover. And it really is seeming like we are going into a very bullish territory. So I will eat a little bit of crow. I was a little wrong. I think there was a day where I was like, it could go down to, 100K-ish. That didn't happen. We got a little baby correction. But I think all of the markets at the time, like I said, we saw some very short-term volatility. But this is all setting up, I think, for a very bullish scenario for assets. Obviously, we think Bitcoin is the best asset. And so I want to kind of go over a bunch of different analysis here on what we actually saw. So I don't know if you guys watched Jerome Powell's speech yesterday. A lot of people were saying it was dovish. They were saying, if they cut higher, it was going to be a lot more hawkish. But if you watch his actual FOMC speech yesterday, there was some interesting things that were said. One, as I said earlier, they basically said they're abandoning the inflation numbers. Like, that's not their priority right now. Their priority is employment. And so if that's the case, and it probably means, like what we've been saying, the money printer is going to get turned on. They did say, they're trying to get back to 2% inflation in like 5 years. So essentially, inflation is going to be running hot for a little bit. And if this is not their mandate anymore, they really don't care about inflation right now.
No. Did you see the? It was James Lavish. Here, let me
Pull it up, because I do have some tweets here, kind of like breaking it down. But let's hear James Lavish. Anyways, like what we're seeing is the markets are kind of digesting this information, and there was a lot of uncertainty in the markets. But I think long term, of course, as we kind of saw, there is a lot of bearishness in the dollar strength, but this is always bullish for Bitcoin. So let's see. Let's pull this up. What do we got here? What James say? Good evening. By cutting rates today, the Fed admitted that they're comfortable. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's why I pulled it up.
Yeah, dude, I am the macro expert. I am macro. I am your new quant. So James Lavish agrees. Essentially what they admitted, and if you got the overall tone of Jerome Powell's speech yesterday, he really had no answers for anything. He was waffling up there. He had he couldn't really answer anything. All he kept saying is like, oh, we'll see. I don't want to comment on this. The economy is not that good, but it's not that bad. And again, it seems like they are fully abandoning the inflation target of 2%, which is obviously a bullish case for assets. And of course, Bitcoin is the best one to be holding in our opinion. So they're going to be focusing a lot more on employment. Nice. Let's pull it up. So, just looking at a bunch of the different takes here, I really like this guy, Jim 168. He's old school Bitcoiner, been doing really good analysis lately. He goes, as markets digest the evolving narrative, the implication extends beyond traditional equities. A softer dollar environment paired with expectations of additional rate cuts tend to create fertile ground for alternative assets like Bitcoin. Historically, when the Fed leans dovish and liquidity conditions ease, capital often seeks stores of value outside conventional financial instruments, and Bitcoin increasingly fits that role in investor profile or portfolios. So this is all, like I was saying previously to the rate cut announcement, is setting up perfectly for Bitcoin. Obviously, we're entering Q4, which we're all extremely bullish on. And if they are, in fact, based on their policy, looking to weaken the strength of the dollar, cutting interest rates potentially 2 more times this year, this is all essentially an indicator for investors out there that they need to kind of go into equities and assets. And they're going to be taking a little more risk because there is no returns for them in treasuries. We did see that the short-term treasuries kind of reacted better, which means that there still is some faith in the institutions in short-term policy. They still have some faith in the Fed short-term, but long-term they don't seem like, investors don't seem to have that much faith in U.S. debt. They're short term, they're like, yeah, they can get it under control. Long term, no one is investing into US debt for 30 years, 10, 20 years, 30 years down the line. They're like, that doesn't make sense to me. And so obviously, if we are seeing the monetary reordering that we believe is on the horizon, and they've been telegraphing, it's all kind of setting up perfectly for Bitcoin to take a much larger role in this global new monetary reordering. Frank Corva did a good article this morning. And he says, Fed rate cuts today may trigger what some refer to as a melt up, the final parabolic phase of a Bitcoin bull run that started in late 2022. So I don't really want to read the whole article here, but there is some interesting stuff in here. You know, this idea of a melt up is something we've talked about on the show for a while. Again, they cut rates at a pretty much bull run top of S&P 500, which is usually means a year from now, it's going to be even higher. So assets are going up. Again, if you are kind of waiting for a drop right now in Bitcoin, you're probably never going to get it. We're starting to see a bullish setup for Bitcoin. And if you're looking at the price, it's starting to feel very bullish to me. It does feel like Bitcoin is about to explode. But here you go. You know, there is kind of a view that maybe there's some kind of huge collapse on the horizon, maybe a bubble burst. I don't really think that is the case. I think we're going to, like, as for Jerome Powell said, they're really not focused on whether they should be taming a bubble. So if there is a bubble in assets right now, that's not their priority right now. He's essentially saying, yeah, we're going to put even more helium into this bubble. So, hey, the rich are going to get richer. If you're holding assets, it's going to go up. This is just kind of how things work out long term. There is kind of a view that we might be seeing a bear case for Bitcoin 2026. But here I want to end with Ansel. There's been a lot of tweets of people saying the bond market has completely rejected the Fed rate cuts. Ansel has been doing really good analysis. Bitcoiner has got his own show. He's really diving in the nitty gritty in the macro markets. And he goes, this isn't the bond market rejecting the rate cut. What's happening, the market is giving the Fed the benefit of the doubt. Again, short-term rates and yields seem to be a little favorable, so people are giving them the benefit of the doubt short-term, but long-term, that faith is not there. Cutting rates is supposed to be accommodative and have a stimulus effect that will raise growth and inflation expectations. Again, they seem to be dropping that 2% inflation rate. They're seemingly targeting like 2.83% by 2028. Or something like that. So inflation's going to run hot. Long bonds represent growth and inflation expectations, and rate cuts initially lead to marginally higher long end yields. But that doesn't last long because the underlying weakness that caused the Fed to lower rates in the first place sinks back in. Look at 2024, 2019, even cuts in 2007 and 8. Every cut was met with at least a bounce in the 10-year. So it still seems, and if you're listening to what our boy here, Jerome Powell, was saying, it doesn't even seem like Jerome Powell has faith in their decisions. There's still a lot of uncertainty, and this is why I think we saw so much volatility and people.
Are you talking about me, OPTI?
Yeah, he doesn't have a European accent.
Are you talking about me, OPTI?
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I would agree with this, Rafi. Frank Horva said the final phase. If what we saw does come true, again, they're not targeting inflation anymore. They're just worried about employment. It looks like we are probably going to continue these asset bubbles. So you do want to position yourself. I personally would say long on most of these assets. I don't think now is the time to be a doomer, fiat doomer, like it's over right now, as we're seeing in the assets. They responded really well today. So I think the asset bubbles are going to continue. I think it's going to run hotter than anyone can even imagine. And again, the money printer is going to get turned on. We all know this is coming. So it's pretty bullish. Not gonna lie, pretty bullish.
Feeling bullish
all around.
Feeling bullish. But I do gotta say though that James Lavish post I think was right on the money. Basically them admitting, hey, we're not going to be able to, we're not going to be able to, they're basically admitting get used to 3% inflation.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they said. 100% get used to 3% inflation. And if you look at the Federal Reserve board thing, the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, it was all over the place. None of them have found consensus on what to do here, which just adds to the confusion for everyone. Like they can't even agree on what's the best thing for the economy or for the dollar, which is why we're Bitcoiners in the first place. Like, yes, I've been kind of mentioning this idea that we probably should be paying attention to what's going on in macro markets, whether it is the Fed or not, because we are maturing. But it doesn't have all the effect on Bitcoin that like traditional asset markets do. So I think Bitcoin will continue to do its own thing. But as you can see in the markets, there was a lot of confusion. Even there was confusion within the Fed board governors. But the biggest thing we did here was exactly what James Lavish said. They're literally throwing their targets away for inflation. And we all know what inflation means. More money creation, more liquidity, which means assets are going to go higher. So I would be positioning myself long right now on any asset. Obviously, I think it should be heavy Bitcoin. But we'll see what happens next month. If they cut again,
they will.
I know it's confirmed.
They're going to cut for
at
the
least
rest of the year.
Well, they're saying at least 2 more rate cuts, but I think it's confirmed they're for sure cutting next month.
So OPTI is basically saying number go up.
I'm basically saying number go up.
Anyways, guys, if you guys enjoyed today's show for September 18th, 2025, make sure to smash that like button. Consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin. We love you all. We appreciate you. I'm your host, Nico. This is my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, who's now a macro quant.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, look, bro.
Even Sophie's laughing about that.
I know, because it's funny that you're a macro quant, but it's still the truth.
Hey, I know some things, okay?
Anyways.
My IQ just rose from 42 to 43.
You guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button, consider subscribing, and we'll see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.